Today, I want to go through the mindset that you need in order to be successful in long-term weight loss. Now, the problem we have with current diet trends, weight loss programs that you get, the motivation for them fluctuates so much, and it puts people into this sort of motivation negative spiral. And that's what we're going to go through today, because I think if you can identify that and resonate with it, then that's the first step to breaking out of it and trying something different. So we're going to go through what mindset people who struggle with weight and consistently sort of end up in these yo-yo dieting cycles, what they go through. And then if that resonates with you, how the steps that we can take to break out of it. So most people, when they start a diet, they usually are not starting something for the first time. So they've tried to lose weight for most of their adult lives, or maybe maybe they started to become overweight in their adult life, and this is the second, third, fourth, sometimes more attempts at losing weight. And so because of that, it usually starts with something relatively extreme, but motivating, because extreme things are usually motivating. If I tell you that tomorrow we're going to start a new diet, a new weight loss program is the first step towards the rest of your life as a healthy, lean individual. And then I tell you that first step is going to be adding one type of food to your lunch, and that's it for the rest of this week. Not that motivating. Long term, that probably is actually going to work better, but it's not that motivating in the short term. Motivation really comes at our highest point of anguish, which is where we look in the mirror or we look on the scales and we're so upset and we're so unhappy with what we see that the need to finally do something about it, this is the time, this is the one we're going to do something about it, is at its highest. And so that's when our motivation is at its highest, and that's usually why a program needs to be quite extreme to get you into that frame of mind of thinking like, okay, this is it, like this is the one. And it's why people who sell sort of fad diet programs or pills or powders or shakes or whatever it could be, an endless list of things to help you lose weight quickly, help you lose weight in 3 weeks, help you lose weight. It's why those people are so successful, because they prey on the vulnerability of people who are really struggling and need that really highly motivating thing. And it's easy to sell something extreme in that case, because extreme things do give you that motivation. And so what happens, though, if I'm gonna draw out a nice diagram here. So we've got a chart here. So this is time, and this is your motivation. And bear with me on this, because I think once you start to understand this, we can start looking at what we can do to stop it. So what happens is you're at your point, it's kind of your lowest point in terms of confidence and highest motivation point, because you really want to make this the time that we lose weight successfly, and we finally get that body that we want, that weight that we want, that health that we want. And so our motivation is somewhat high. You start here, and you start here because you've usually, like I said, found some sort of extreme program. It could be, a massive 90-day transformation, overhauling everything you eat. It could be a new shakes only diet program where that's all you drink, and it promises weight loss results. It could be a pill, it could be an injection, it could be anything. Usually something quite extreme. It could be a boot camp. You get the idea, you get the picture. It's something that is going to be an overhaul of your whole life. And you start there, motivation really high. And what usually happens within week 1 to 2, let's assume this is sort of week 1 here, or let's say week 2, what usually happens is it's successful. You start losing weight. You're probably in some sort of calorie deficit. You're probably moving more, working out more, and your body responds by losing weight. What you don't know, or maybe you do know, but what most people don't realize, is that a lot of that early weight loss is actually water and glycogen stores. And that's because when you suddenly reduce how much you eat, or you suddenly start burning more calories than you consume, your body starts shedding the energy stores in the liver, which is where it keeps short-term energy stores. And that energy store in the liver is tied to water. And so when you lose that, and it's a small amount, we don't hold very much there, but because it's tied to water, which is quite heavy, that initial weight loss seems great. It's why people get such a quick quick result from a new weight loss or diet program within the first week or week or two, because they get that water loss. And so the scales really respond in a positive way. And what that does is it makes people's motivation even higher. So they start going up here. And they get to this point at about week 2 to 3 where they're feeling even better. They've had weight loss and they're feeling great. They're seeing the scales go down. They think this is the one, finally. This is the one that they've been waiting for. This is the program that works. They usually they feel better because they're starting to do something towards reducing their weight, which does make you feel better in the short term, especially because you're getting a little bit more energy. Working out releases endorphins. The energy on the number on the scale, sorry, that also releases some like sort of confidence and endorphins. But what then normally happens by week after you've lost the water weight, second or third week, you've lost the water weight, you've lost that initial boost. Now what happens is you've lost all the initial energy stores, all the quick wins have gone. This is where your body starts fighting you back. So what your body starts to do is say, okay, you're suddenly doing something really extreme. You're suddenly eating way less than we used to. You're burning way more calories. So I'm gonna fight back on this because I don't like this. I want to keep things exactly as they are. And so it starts to reduce how much it burns. It starts to make you more sluggish. It keeps you more tired. You move less. It starts to shut down things, especially if you're very extreme. So like people who do very low calorie diets or no carb diets and things like that, where the calories are very low. It gets even, the body responds even harshly. That every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's that essentially. So it may shut off things that it doesn't feel necessary. So if you're female, for females menstruation, it may shut that off. It won't digest as well. All the things that it doesn't feel are absolutely essential because it's kind of going into survival mode. And so this is where the weight loss starts to plateau because the body has started to push back against that. So now you're not getting those initial 2-3 kilos of weight loss in the first week or two. You're starting to plateau. And on top of that, because it's shutting off, it's making you sluggish, it's shutting off all the things that it doesn't feel are necessary, you're starting to feel not so great. Your cortisol levels are probably going up because your body's under high stress. You've David Goggins your way through the first 2 weeks and now your cortisol levels are through the roof. Your sleep's probably suffering because of that. Your body's going to hold on to whatever water weight it's got and its sort of stubborn fat stores as well. So you're not going to start seeing the results in the mirror or on the scales that you want. And this is where by, let's say maybe end of month 1, let's say, your motivation starts to creep back down. So you're starting to come back down here because now everything is getting harder. And so this is like the first negative feeling. And that's an A. And once you get to here, then the issue that we then have is that from now, everything starts to get 10 times harder because now that the weight loss is plateauing, and you feel rubbish, and the energy levels are low, and the hunger is increasing, every day becomes a fight. It becomes a slog. Your hunger levels are through the roof, and so the foods that you are restricting yourself from eating, they're also getting, you're seeing them in your dreams. You're seeing them everywhere you go. And it also means that the foods that you're kind of forcing yourself to eat or not eat, they're getting boring, they're getting mundane. You're not looking forward to eating. Everything seems like a drag. You don't want to get yourself into breakfast and start preparing whatever it is that you've decided to eat because it's just like I don't want to eat this. And this is where usually the mental effects of an extreme diet or weight loss program really starts to take effect and usually start to affect people around you. So your social commitments, they take a hit because you go to a restaurant but you can't eat what everyone else is eating, or you don't want to go. If your family aren't doing what you're doing, then that takes a hit as well because they usually feel like you're not joining in, or you're watching them eat foods that you want to eat, and you feel just miserable. You feel like, what is the point of doing this? Like, there's no enjoyment in this. And this, it basically starts to spiral even more. So if you make it to, let's say, week 6 to 7, which a lot of people don't, but if you do, you're really just here now. You're like, I could make this even lower, but you're really at your lowest point. And this point here, this is really where most people live in weight loss. So when you ask people who have been struggling for most of their life, how they feel about losing weight and diets, they associate it inherently with negativity because this is where they live, because this is where they remember most of diet programs or weight loss programs or healthy eating. This is how they remember it, at their lowest point of motivation, where they just felt rubbish, no energy, poor sleep, they're miserable, everyone around them is getting miserable, they can't enjoy anything and it's no fun. And then what happens is this can last for however long your willpower will allow it to last, and you'll think it's willpower, but it's actually just your body fighting to get you back. And it will last however long, however sort of resilient you are, and everyone's got a limit, and then they break before you then give up on the whole thing. So this is where kind of like the diet ends. And then the next step after the diet ends is you give up, you stop. You usually go back to eating how you were eating. So you start to eat everything, you know, as you used to do. You feel great because you're eating the right things, but your guiltiness, is that a word? No, probably not. Your guiltiness on your weight and your health starts to increase again. And so basically you just end up going very slowly, and it's usually a lot longer than this, but back up to this point here, where, and this is sort of, it matches weight, but your weight will go back up, your eating habits go back up, and then whilst your enjoyment on the way that you're eating, because you've gone back to your old habits, increases, your guilt around that does as well, and so your motivation gets back. And you know, I don't think I've done this in a perfectly straight line, but essentially you can see we're almost at where we are again, and you can basically put this as the no idea if that's moved. You can basically put this as the original. So you're back at the beginning, you're back at the start, and the whole cycle carries on. And people do this on and off for most of their adult life. I mean, I speak to people all the time who have been struggling and trying to lose weight, and they will literally do this for years, on and off. So this whole process takes about 2 months. Then this process here can take anywhere from 2 to 6 to a year, and then usually, especially on New Year's resolutions, once you get back up to here, you know, once a year at least, people are doing this for most of their adult life, and it never gets anywhere. In fact, this is the worst part, because this is making every next time you lose weight doubly hard. Because what happens is when you lost weight during this part, you lost muscle and fat. But when you regain here, you basically just regain fat. And so your metabolic health at this point is actually worse off. And so it makes this journey so much harder every single time. And it pushes you into doing more extreme things every single time. And so that's how you end up in this vicious cycle, because every time you do it, your metabolic health is worse, and you try something even more extreme because, you know, Hail Mary all in. And so you end up making this even harder and more drawn out, and this becomes a deeper negative every single time, this lowest point. And that's when you really feel like, I can lose weight, but I can never keep it off, and weight loss isn't for me. And it's inherently just a miserable thing that people that live in the gym and people that eat, you know, quinoa and salads all day, that's what they do, and they never have a burger, and they don't enjoy their life. And I can't do that, and that's not me. And you know, I've got poor metabolism, etc., which you probably do. And you know, I get it. I completely understand. I kind of, not maybe in this extreme, but I've been in this situation as well. I've spoken to hundreds of people who've been in this situation, so I really do understand it. And the reason why I wanted this to be the focus of today's video is because you need to understand this in order to break out of it, so that you don't do this. And you might be asking, well, what is the solution? And the solution is boring. The solution is, can we get to a place where weight loss is not inherently negative, miserable, and we actually enjoy it? And the answer is yes, we can. But the problem is that motivation-wise, it never really looks like this. So even if your motivation at the beginning starts here at this highest point, really what it will kind of look like is it'll probably actually drop a little bit at the beginning, and then it'll plateau out, and then eventually it'll start rising, and then it will just level out at the end. And this is kind of what healthy weight loss looks like. Because what we do need to do is start habit building. So we need to start picking up certain habits that will lead us to living a healthy life, where we eat food that we enjoy. We don't restrict ourselves 100% off of certain types of foods. We make social eating, we make social movement a big part of our life. And what we don't do is worry about too much about what the scales are saying, too much about what the calorie count is saying, because that ends up putting us in this cycle. What we do is start building those habits. So I give an example to people all the time that James Clear gives in Atomic Habits, of a guy who wants to start working out. So slightly different. He wants to work out, he wants to lift heavier weights, he wants to get fitter, maybe not specifically for weight loss, but that's what he wants to do. And for the first 2 weeks or a month, all he does is go to the gym and set himself a timer of only being in the gym 5 minutes. That's the rule. When 5 minutes hits, he's out. And for someone who's goal orientated, who wants to just see the numbers, maybe he wants to see his lifts get up bigger, or his duration on the treadmill get longer, whatever it may be. For someone who's goal orientated, they would say that is a useless thing to do, because in 5 minutes you're not going to do anything. So after 2 weeks or a month or however long he did that, he's not going to have actually progressed in his journey. But what he has done for himself is he has started to build a habit. He has started to become someone that goes to the gym, and he's made that easy. He's made that 5 minutes really easy, so that the motivation to do it is high all the time, because it's just not a hard thing to do. And he's becoming a person that goes to the gym. He's settling in. He's becoming someone that associates himself as a gym goer. And how much easier is it then, after 2 weeks or a month, to add in 10 more minutes and 15 more minutes and start building on it and start building on it? And that is actually the way that our bodies adapt as well. When you do extreme things, the body pushes back. The slower you change, the slower the body can push back, and the easier it can adapt to what you're doing. So what we want to do, and I've touched on this in other videos, and I will touch on this in future videos, is we want to start incorporating steps that will start to build habits. So I always start with adding in. So start adding in foods that are high in satiety, don't spike your insulin. I've done other videos on this. I've got my 5 foods. You don't have to use the same ones. I do. They include lentils, they include chickpeas, they include sweet potatoes, Greek yogurt and eggs for snacks, things like that. And you don't have to take away, you don't have to restrict, but add in. Because when you add in, you start adding in foods that you can make really tasty. You know, if you haven't experienced good, healthy, quality food, you need to, because it can be really enjoyable. You know, sourdough bread is not the enemy. Sourdough bread with some olive oil and some salt is not the enemy, but it is if that's all you're eating, and if that's what you're eating, but you've also cut out everything else that you enjoy, and you're also insulin resistant. I'm not going to get into too much detail because I don't want to bore people in this video, but you can do it the wrong way, where you've not reset your palate, you're craving junk food, you're going extreme low calorie, and then you try to eat healthy foods, and they're not giving you what you want because your body's responding to it in the wrong way, as we see here. But we can start incorporating. So I wouldn't start by adding in bread. I wouldn't start by adding in pasta. But what I would do is I would start adding in these kind of, I'll maybe link to the other videos that I've done on this. You just start adding in, and guess what? The weight on the scale is not going to go down in the first week or two, but you're going to start building habits. Or start drinking more water after meals because it keeps you full. And a lot of the time we think we're hungry, but we're actually thirsty. And I'll start trying to break, and this is a whole other video series maybe, but start trying to break the emotional connection we have with food, where we rely on food. It's fine to enjoy food, absolutely fine. It's not fine to rely on it to get us through all of the difficult moments that we have in life. That's completely different. That's emotional eating, where we're relying on it as a dopamine hit to fulfill us. Enjoying food in a social environment with friends and family and tasting really good food, fantastic. Not when you rely on it. And so we need to break that connection as well. And we'll get to a point where we eat a varied diet, we eat intuitively, and it was not going to happen up here at the start. It's going to happen here at the end, and we have to go through this journey, and the journey is not going to be extreme, and it's going to feel at the beginning like you're not doing anything, and that's where you're being successful, because you're building habits. And so next videos, future videos, I'm going to break it down, the solution even more, and the steps that I want people to take. But understanding this negativity is also really, really key, because it's going to go a long way towards the next time you feel that urge to try something extreme because you feel rubbish about the way that you are living or looking in the mirror. Don't. Give yourself a break. Know that there are so many elements that are working against you, including the food environment that we have around us, your own body when you try something extreme, every single snake oil salesman in the weight loss industry that's trying to sell you something quick, fast, and rubbish. And you're stuck, and so much misinformation, overload of information. So I get it's so easy to do. But the next time you feel like doing that, remember this. Come back to this video, message me, whatever it might be, because what we want to do is start building habits that are going to get you for the next 10 years, not just feeling miserable through it, but actually living a life where you enjoy what you eat good food, you eat in enjoyment, you work out in enjoyment, and you enjoy your life, because that, at the end of the day, we're not on this earth for very long. It's a short life, and we need to live it to its fullest. We need to feel fulfilled, and we want to be healthy, and we want to live a long time up and ambulatory and with our friends and our families. So that is it for today's video. As usual, all the like, comment, subscribe stuff, and I will see you all very soon.